What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to Around the World with Steven. Welcome to you. And if you're returning, I appreciate you so much. Welcome, 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 welcome. Now, today we have a highly requested video. I think this has been requested for a while now, and I thought to do it. So I got a request to do the most hated man in Korea. I looked through Stephanie's catalog, the Running Mango catalog, and found out that there were two of those. Um, Both have the hated man in Korea in their thumbnail, written in their thumbnail. I reacted to the first one, and I'm about to do this one. This in particular says Korea's most hated man just released from prison, decided to move into victim's neighborhood. That is insane. How do you get released and move to the victim's neighborhood? Like how? What is wrong with you? Why would you even think about that? Let's check this out. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing. A lot of my viewers are not subscribed. Please do consider subscribing. We're growing this family together. And thank you all so much. Let's check this out.
Bada bing, bada boom.
December 16th, 2021. It's 9 p.m. in Ansan City, just outside of Seoul, South Korea. Mr. C receives a knock on his door. He looks through the little peephole. It's a uniformed police officer. He looks at his wife and says, "It's the police." Now, to most couples, this would have been very alarming to have the police show up unannounced at your house at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. Like, what is going on? But Mr. C was kind of in a strange situation. Someone tried to kill him earlier that year.
Whoa.
So the officer was likely here to give Mr. C an update on the stalker that tried to kill him just 10 months ago. And, the whole thing was really bizarre. A 20-year-old man, a complete and utter stranger to Mr. C. Like, they had no degrees of connection. They didn't have mutual friends, nothing. This man stalked Mr. C for 3 months, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. February of 2021, just 10 months ago from that date, he had slipped a knife into his pocket, buried his face into a giant puffer jacket, and tried to get into Mr. C's apartment building. He was caught with the knife in his pocket before he could even get to Mr. C. But the whole thing was just so unsettling. He was dragged away by the police and he was screaming about how, "I must kill him, I must kill Mr. C, or else life is not worth living." And just to clarify, again, this is not a man that Mr. C even knows.
That is scary. To get stalked for 3 months and not knowing anything, and he deciding to strike with a knife. Oh my goodness, this is insane. This is insane. My wife and I were talking about like stalkers and situations where stalkers really do watch their target. They get your routine. They get your when you're home, when you're not at home, when you're home alone, and all that stuff. And for months and months and months, they gather that information. So when they're attacking, they know they have you at a very vulnerable state where you can't defend yourself. And this happened to be that. He stalked him for 3 months. That is crazy. Glad he got caught before he could do anything stupid. That is insane.
Anyway, this man was sentenced to 6 months in prison. And it was just very terrifying for Mr. C to realize that there were people out there these days that have zero morals, zero concept of consequences. But at least Mr. C had the police, They'd been very understanding about the whole incident. They were constantly making sure to just check up on Mr. C, trying to make him feel as safe as possible, even stationing police guards outside of the building. Mr. C and his wife ushered in the police officer. They're like, "It's 43 degrees. Come in, it's cold, it's cold." Now, it's unclear if Mr. C recognized the officer. And it's unclear at what point Mr. C realized this police officer standing in his apartment is not a real police officer. He was the 20-year-old man that tried to kill him 10 months ago. He had been released from prison 4 months ago, and he was back to finish the job.
Oh my goodness.
The fake police officer grabs a hammer near the door and smashes it onto Mr. C's head.
Yo!
Mr. C's wife is screaming. She's running out the door while the two men get into a struggle. They're trying to overpower each other. Mr. C's wife is screaming, "There's a lunatic trying to murder my husband!" The real police officers arrive in record time.
Oh my
They arrest
goodness.
the masked man, and Mr. C was rushed to the local hospital.
Yo, this is insane. I do say this about the justice system. If you find perpetrators, deal with them. You see this? He got out of jail, got a police uniform, and went back to Mr. C's house to cook. Bro, that is insane. These laws got to be stricter. Oh my goodness.
The 20-year-old man did not have the best aim, so Mr. C ended up being completely fine, just minor injuries, but he was very badly shaken up. And the police, they sit the 20-year-old guy down, and the attempted killer, they sit him down and they say, "What is your problem? You don't even personally know this guy. Like, why are you ruining your life right now? You're about to get sentenced for attempted murder. Do you understand that?" The guy with the hammer just bluntly responded, "I'm doing this for justice." Justice? Can you really argue that justice is a 20-year-old man impersonating a police officer, breaking into a 70-year-old man's house and beating him on the head with a hammer? That's a senior citizen. What's crazy is everyone in South Korea, all the netizens, all the civilians, they agreed. This, in fact, was justice. Even the police couldn't help but agree. Maybe this is the way it's supposed to be. Because 13 years ago, a little girl had drawn a picture in court. It looked like the drawing of an 8-year-old because she was 8 when she drew it, and the content of the drawing is pretty alarming. It's of a man standing in a jail cell. There are cockroaches just crawling around. There's rats everywhere. The man is holding a spoon in one hand, a bowl of cockroaches in the other. That's what he's eating. He's eating a bowl of cockroaches like it's cereal. And on top of his head, there is a judge slamming the hammer down on his head. That man in the 8-year-old's drawing was Mr. C. Cho Do-sun. He was the man who was on trial for kidnapping said 8-year-old girl, dragging her into the church bathroom, brutally essaying her within an inch of her life, mutilating her body, leaving her with permanent disabilities, and just 12 years later, he was released from prison, living as a free man, and not just free, living half a mile away from the victim's home. Cho Do-sun is the most hated and yet the most protected man in all of South Korea. The man that the government has spent over $1 million of taxpayer money to protect. The man that has strangers wanting to kill him for what he did to the little 8-year-old girl named Nayoung.
I'm sorry. I apologize for my comments earlier. Yeah, the 20-year-old man should have got him. What? So this guy, wait, this is crazy. This guy did that to the 8-year-old girl and has police parading him in his apartment. And oh my God. So man, no. Let's go ahead. What?
This is the case of Cho Do-sun, also known in Korea as the murderer of souls. He is also the most hated man in the nation.
Yo. I don't know how I feel, man. This is crazy. What?
Now, a very quick content warning with today's episode. There is a lot of heavy discussion on essay against an 8-year-old, and the perpetrator basically gets away with it. If that is something that you feel is going to be too heavy or is going to bring you to a very dark place, please take care of yourself, grab yourself a hot meal, relax, and I will see you in the next episode. So with that being said, let's get into it. When the president comes to town, it's kind of a huge coordinated effort to keep the president safe. That's what this felt like. There's workers on ladders installing more CCTV cameras up on the poles. Street light bulbs were being taken out and replaced with brighter bulbs to illuminate the alleyways at night, to make it brighter. Facial recognition cameras were being installed. I mean, those are expensive. Alleyway alarms were being installed. So if you're walking down the alleyway and you feel like, ooh, this doesn't feel right, something sinister is about to happen, what do? You run to the pole, press the big red button, police will be dispatched. There were countless bright yellow vest wearing police officers just roaming around the city of Ansan, surveilling the people, civilians, poking their head into businesses, making sure everything is in order. The government actually spent money hiring martial arts professionals to train the police department better. The control room for all of the CCTV cameras in Ansan City, it looked like a top secret military command center. Over $1 million was spent in like the span of a month or two, revamping the streetlights, installing more cameras, even just hiring more manpower in the police force. All of that was taxpayer money. I mean, it's very clear to everyone. Someone very important is coming to town. Ansan City government even hired 12 security guards, formerly special forces soldiers, and martial arts specialists to just patrol the area around this man's house. 24-hour-a-day security. They would even ask anyone that's walking down that street within like a block of this man's house for their ID, just to make sure that they're not someone weird. I mean, you can't tell me that's not the president. Even the residents of Ansan are prepping. They're hanging up lights on their balconies, motion sensor lights. They're installing cameras. Some of them gathered together and held up these massive banners in preparation for the man's arrival. Now, maybe if you don't read Korean, they could be mistaken for welcome signs. But they're not. They read, criminal rapist Cho Do-sun, leave our city. Castrate him. Cho Do-sun to hell. Only a death sentence will fit a monster like him. Other residents, they locked arms, they hooked their elbows with each other, and they laid down on the streets where the cars were passing to block traffic. They did.
Man, I must say this. One thing admirable about South Korea is if there is anything like a tragedy or something, injustice or something they're fighting, you realize that most, and I repeat, most of the citizens come together. Of course, there are people that would be against it. Like if you are aware of the eBay storehouse, those cockroaches, of course, they're going to come against it. But aside that aside, South Korea has an admirable way of coming together when there's tragedy and when there's like people like this lurking, right? They have a way of coming together. It's like your business and your business is also my business, and I'm going to help you to do that. That's admirable. I wish every part of the world will learn from that.
Did not want this man here. Other locals, they went to the grocery store and they bought eggs and flour, baking flour. There was an overnight rally outside the prison. About 100 individuals were armed and ready with fresh cartons of eggs, and they were screaming, "Why are you protecting the rights of a convict? He needs to die."
Whoa.
December 12th, 2020, at 6:45 a.m., it was time. The most well-protected man in South Korea was being released. The prison gates opened. A swarm of police officers rushed out with a man in the center. It was a gray-haired Cho Do-sun. Cho had been prepping for this moment too. Just like the city, just like the residents, for the past 12 years, he had been preparing. He was obsessed with working out. He could do 1,000 push-ups in a single hour. He was 68 years old on the day of his release, but his physique, his muscle mass was more on par with a 30-year-old.
1,000 push-ups?
In a single hour.
What?
When his inmates would ask him, "Why are you working out so hard?" he said that he was preparing for this very exact day, the day that he's going to be released. Because what if someone tries to attack him? People were so violent and senseless these days. He was released wearing a ball cap, white face mask, and he was wearing a puffer jacket. He refused.
So this disgusting piece of shit who essayed an 8-year-old girl thinks that 1,000 push-ups and getting your body in shape could save you from the wrath of people. We could get a 1,000 teen or preteen boys, and they will still do damage to you regardless of your physique and your training level. You are hated. That is what it boils down to. No matter 1 billion push-ups, your muscles look like the Hawks muscles, whatever. The mob, you are protected by the police. That's what's protecting you, not your push-ups, nothing. If the police were to release you to the mob, no matter how many push-ups you do, 100 punches trumps 100 push-ups, and 1,000 punches trumps 1,000 push-ups. This piece of shit, look at him. 68-year-old piece of shit.
Used to answer any of the civilians or the reporters' questions. He refused to apologize. He just bowed twice silently in front of all the cameras that were shoved in his face. But there was a very interesting detail that is so telling about this whole situation. It isn't the fact that so many police officers were surrounding him. It's not the fact that some of the officers even took an egg to their back because they're somewhat shielding Cho from all of this. It is the fact that in Cho's right hand was a tiny, small tangerine. It's such a small, insignificant fruit, but it just feels so sinister. It feels so nonchalant, like he just grabbed a piece of fruit on his way out to run errands. Could he really even be thinking about food right now? Later, Cho's probation officer would state that Cho was surprised to see all the people that were greeting him when he was released.
Greeting.
He said, I guess it kind of makes sense, though. I committed a crime that would anger both gods and human beings. The day of that crime was December 11th, 2008. So 12 years prior. 8:30 a.m., it's below freezing temperatures in South Korea, 30 degrees Fahrenheit or -1 degree Celsius. It's about the time that kids are rushing to school in their little puffer jackets and their mittens. Adults are commuting to work. And in this quiet alleyway in Ansan City is Cho smoking a cigarette. Now, if you pass by him, you might think maybe he's waiting for someone. It is way too cold to be standing in this windy alleyway smoking a cigarette. It's not even enjoyable. But he's waiting. And he waits until he sees a little girl that is named Nayoung. So Nayoung is not actually her real name. Her identity is very well protected by the South Korean government, and no one's trying to figure out who she is. So she's Nayoung. She's a third grader, probably around 3.5 feet tall, very tiny, walking to school. And she's walking quickly because it's cold. He steps in front of her and he says, "Do you go to this church?" Behind him in the alleyway, there's this small church, and it's not like a normal church building. It's one of those black brick buildings. It looks more like an office building that's been rented and converted into a church, like the type that you would see in major cities. She responds, "No," steps to the side to walk around the man, but he grabs her tiny little arm and says, "You should go to church." He starts dragging her into this quiet black building. It's completely empty. It's a school day. Nobody who worked at the church had even gotten there yet. It was left unlocked so that worshipers could come in at any time and pray. Without hesitation, Cho drags her up to the second floor bathroom. It is a single toilet private bathroom. There are no stalls. There's no heater turned on. There's this orange-brown tile on the ground that's ice cold. He throws her into the bathroom and shuts the door behind him.
Oh my goodness.
He forces her to sit on the toilet and tries to essay her by forcing her to perform orally. He pulls down his pants, but Nayoung refuses, and this really angers Cho. He starts leaning down and starts assaulting her tiny little face with his mouth. He starts biting her cheeks in anger, and he's not biting. He's genuinely trying to shred off her cheek fat with his teeth. He tears off enough skin to get to the fatty tissue below the skin.
What?
Her face will be scarred. Not all the way down to the muscle, but it was really bad and it was very bloody. Nayoung feels the pain of this and she starts screaming for help, and Cho screams at her to shut up and slaps her across the face. But when that doesn't work, he puts his giant hands around her tiny neck and strangles her until she's unconscious. And then he unclothes her and violently assaults her from the front and behind. He was so violent that her large intestines were pulled out and were hanging completely out of her body.
Bro, stop.
There were at one point rumors that a plunger was used on her private parts in order to inflict this level of damage, but it was later stated that no, it was just the sheer brutality of the assault that caused the injuries. She was completely disemboweled. When he was done, with the bathroom sink, there's a pipe that goes to the wall, and that's where the water comes out of. He disconnected that pipe, so when he turned on the faucet, the water was now just spilling out onto the ground. And it was just splashing on top of 8-year-old Nayoung. It was ice cold water. This was his attempt to get rid of his DNA. And then he left that little 8-year-old girl, unclothed, dying, disemboweled on the cold church bathroom floor. He walked back home. He didn't say a word to his wife. He's married. He went into his room, changed his clothes, threw himself onto his warm, comfortable bed, and he started snoring. He fell asleep in peace, knowing that he would wake up in the comfort of his own bed. While Nayoung, she only had a 10% chance of waking up ever again.
I am so mad. I take everything I said at the beginning of the video back. I'm so mad the 20-year-old didn't get him. I'm so mad the 20-year-old didn't get him. He should have been patient and he should have got him real good. Oh my goodness. What? Bro. He's not only the most hated man in Korea, I think this is the most hated man in existence. Period. This guy is the most hated man in existence. It doesn't have to be just Korea. He had his thing in Korea, but if you tell this story to everybody, every sane human being will find him disgusting. This guy has to be punished. I do not care. His stint in prison is not enough. He should be. How did he get that short time? It happened in 2008 and he came back before. How?
She would wake up briefly from the cold water splashing on her back. I mean, the water was so cold, it would have been numbing on her skin. And when she looked up, her attacker is gone. I don't know if she could see the extent of her own injuries, if that would register in an 8-year-old's brain. I don't know. But she mustered up all the strength that she had left and started crawling out of that church bathroom. We don't know how loud she could even be after being violently strangled, but she tried her best to call for help. She was out the door and into the hallway with this trail of blood just behind her when a church worker sees her and they start screaming for help. Paramedics rush to the church. They rush baby Nayoung to the hospital, and it was one of the worst case situations possible. Nayoung was now losing consciousness. Her large intestines was dying. So when your organs are exposed to the harsh environment outside of your body, the cells start to die. When this happens, doctors have to amputate and remove the dying organ so that they can try to contain that damage. But that's not the only problem that they're dealing with. There's so many variables. They don't know how long Nayoung was without oxygen to the brain. She had severe damage to 80% of her private parts. She had severe damage to her internal organs. Doctors had to make sure that her small intestines were still intact because you can live without your large intestines. You cannot live without your small intestines. Your large intestines are mainly there for water and electrolyte absorption to harden your stool. But your small intestines, that's where you absorb the nutrients for your food. The doctors didn't know if Nayoung's small intestines were also damaged and how badly and to what extent. Additionally, she had several broken bones. She would need life-saving emergency surgery, and the chance of survival, 10%. She would be in that emergency surgery for 8 hours. The surgeon would have to cut open her abdomen, a long cut through her chest all the way down to her belly button so that they could operate on all of her internal organs. She was bleeding internally. They had to amputate around 70% of her intestines. The surgery itself is physically traumatic, just adding more injuries onto little Nayoung's body. Nayoung's parents rushed to the hospital and they just held on to that 10% chance the whole time that she's being operated on because all they need is that 10%. After 8 hours of surgery, Nayoung woke up, and instead of being in the comfort of her own bed like Cho was, she was on the hard hospital bed with machines beeping all around her and a handful of police officers staring down at her. They wanted her to give her statement. The first thing 8-year-old Nayoung did after waking up from life-saving surgery was tell the police everything that happened. And I'm sure every second of that was painful. An 8-year-old describing in detail all the horrific things a 57-year-old man did to her, a man older than her own father, that is not a normal conversation. The doctor is then sitting that 8-year-old Nayoung down and telling her how her entire life is going to change and how her body no longer works the way it used to because of this man. That is not a normal conversation. Nayoung was too young to even spell the names of the surgeries that she received. Nayoung's doctors had to amputate a good amount of her large intestines. They had to connect her small intestines to her rectum in hopes that her small intestines would slowly learn to take on the role of her large intestines. And because most of her large intestines were now gone, she would have a stoma. A stoma is a hole in your stomach that doctors create that allow waste, urine, and feces to exit your body through your stomach.
How is this piece of shit able to get police protection? How is he able to get police protection? How? Somebody explain that to me. I do not understand. How is this piece of rat's turd able to get police protection? How is he able to call police and police rush to his apartment? I understand rights and human rights and everything, but to me, I believe certain instances should have you as quote unquote a human lose your rights. I don't care. That's how I feel. You touch an 8-year-old girl to the point that you desecrate her organs. You should lose all rights to even exist. Hey, if you can't take my opinion, you're free to tune off. This is my opinion. This guy deserved to have lost his rights. The 20-year-old should have done whatever he was supposed to do to him. He called and the police rushed to his man. Sometimes, man.
So instead of sitting down using a toilet to use the restroom, you would have the stomach opening and it would be connected to a bag of sorts, like a colostomy bag, and it would empty out on its own. There are no nerve endings in the stoma, so thankfully it shouldn't hurt. But, in that same vein, there are no sphincter muscles at the end of a stoma, like you would have in the rectum. So something that a lot of us might take for granted is, when you go out with friends and you're having lunch with them, kind of hold our need to use the restroom, or we can kind of time it so when we get home, that's when we will use it, right? When you have a stoma, there's no warning. There's no way to control it. The waste will just exit the stoma whether you like it or not. Side note, I know that the upside of all of this, the hope that we're holding on to is that, yes, she's alive, right? This is very bad, but at least she's alive. But it's not, oh, she's saved now, just one surgery and she's good to go. No, she would need months of intensive treatment to just heal from the surgery, let alone the physical injuries that were inflicted on her by this man. On top of that, she would have to learn how to deal with this completely new life. Patients with a stoma, they need to learn to time meals. They need to learn how to chew food because for most people, chewing food, when you're in a rush, okay, you chew a little bit less. For people with a stoma, that could mean the difference between a week of pain and being hospitalized versus having a good bowel movement. Because of the damage done to Nayoung's private parts, she was not allowed to sit for more than 10 to 15 minutes at a time. She had to eat less often. She could not snack anymore. She couldn't drink soda or eat her favorite foods. I mean, she was just in excruciating, unrelenting pain every second of that journey. And every second of this physical healing journey would be unrelenting pain, like excruciating pain. So while she's in that hospital bed trying to recover, the police show up with 9 pictures. Each of them were of an old, scary-looking man. They ask her, which one was the man who attacked you? And she confidently points to one of the pictures and she's like, that's him. That's the man who hurt me. I know this for certain. Because of this, Nayoung's Cho Do-sun would be arrested on December 13th, 2008, 2 days after the brutal attack. In Korea, one of the first things that kids are taught, and it's kind of random, but it's posture. Have good posture. It's fascinating. Even in elementary schools, you probably won't see teachers in the US correcting students' posture or even disciplining them based on their posture, but in South Korea, very common. Sitting tall with your back straight is not even just considered good for your spine. It's also considered respectful. Slouching in front of elders, it's interpreted as you don't respect them enough to be at full attention. In school, your posture can determine if teachers see you as a well-behaved, studious, credible kid or not. And this man's voice was very stern. Sit up, straighten your back. Nayoung fumbled with her colostomy bag.
Wait,
the
what?
bag that catches all her waste and is attached to her stoma on her stomach. The hospital didn't have ones for children, so she had to use an adult-sized colostomy bag. It was hanging, peeking out from under her shirt, and it came all the way down to her knees. Because again, this bag was made for adults. It was way too big for her. She fumbled with her bag, and she's wincing as she's trying to sit up straighter. Technically, she's not even supposed to be sitting for too long.
What?
Doctor said maybe just 10-15 minutes, and then she has to get up. The prosecutors waited until they were happy with her posture to continue.
Screw those prosecutors. Screw those prosecutors. Each and every one of them. Are you serious? Oh my gosh, bro. What? After she went through that, you are concerned about posture. And she's going through a lot of hurt, but you don't care. It's the posture and the idea of her being respectful to feed your own stupid, useless egos. Screw you. Screw each and every one of you. Screw you. I wish that, man.
The prosecutors.
This is at court?
This is in the prosecutor's office before the trial.
What?
Nayoung had given her full statement to the police the minute that she woke up from life-saving surgery. But the prosecutors, they wanted her to come in and tell them one more time so that they could record
Oh
it
my
and they could
gosh.
play that recording in the trial. So she had to start all the way from the beginning in this very scary office with her colostomy bag. She's not allowed to sit for more than 10-15 minutes. And the prosecutor is disciplining her on her posture.
Remember, that's an 8-year-old girl who went through that. An 8-year-old girl. This prosecutor is the worst. Did something happen to him? Because I'll be happy. Oh my gosh. Why are the perpetrators always having the upper hand? That is a victim, not an adult victim, an 8-year-old victim who went through all that. And you're worried about your posture and disciplining her. You're a stupid person. You have no manners, morals, values. You are the most stupid person I've ever seen on earth. You should make the Guinness World Record for the most stupid prosecutor to have ever lived.
That is crazy.
She had to start from the beginning and recount every single detail that she could remember, even the most traumatic parts. Each time, it would take 30 minutes for her to tell the full story. He told me to be quiet in the bathroom, he slapped my face, and then he strangled me. By the end of her story, she would be trembling, shaken up, and re-traumatized, and the prosecutor would correct her posture once more, and then when she was done, he looked down at his recorder. Oh, shoot. I forgot to hit the record button. Okay, let's do it one more time from the
Dude, hold on. I gotta bro, hold on. Bro, put the prosecutor's name in the comments. Put that piece of shit's name in the comments. That piece of shit, his name has to be in the comments. Please help me out. He's an idiot. I gotta make a live stream and go off on his ass and somebody send it to him in North Korea. He's in South Korea. Stupid asshole. What? Oh my gosh. Bro, somebody please put his name in the comment. That stupid prosecutor, please. The stupid bro.
top. He told me to be quiet in the bathroom, slapped my face, and then strangled me. Damn it, what is wrong with this tape recorder? Okay, let's go back from the top, and don't skip any details this time around too, and sit up straight.
Fuck. Oh my gosh, bro. Your mother is wrong with the tape recorder. Your mother is wrong with the tape recorder. You're an idiot. You are an idiot for re-traumatizing an 8-year-old kid. You are bro. Why did I have to react to this today, man? Oh, sheesh. It is your mother who is wrong with the tape recorder. I need this guy's name. I want to pause the recording and search for his name. He's a piece of rat's turd. He's an idiot together with the guy that essayed the girl. Both of them are stupid idiots. Why this idiot representing this girl? Why?
This would be the third time. He told me to be quiet in the bathroom, slapped my face, and then strangled me. Oh my goodness, you've got to be kidding me. The recording still didn't work. Okay, again, from the beginning, don't forget a single thing. The kidnapping, assault, what he looked like, nothing. Keep in all the details. He told me to be quiet in the bathroom, slapped my face, and then strangled me. Nayoung would have to recite exactly what happened to her 4 times in a row. Sitting on a hard chair when her doctors advised her to not sit more than 10 minutes at a time, fumbling with her colostomy bag, re-traumatizing herself, bringing her back to the day of the attack over and over and over again with her own words, while the prosecutor is yelling at her, 똑바로 앉으라고, 허리 펴고, which means sit up straight, straighten your back.
Stupid, 허리 펴고 to you. 허리 펴고 to you. 허리 펴고, you bitch. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, bro. Holy fucking pigo to you. Are you serious right now? Who made him a prosecutor and put him on this case? Who? Who? Because this stupid idiot is not worth it. He's not. All you have to do is calm the 8-year-old down, assure her everything is going to be fine, assure her the guy is going to be put in jail until you need her statement. Make sure everything is right. You don't want to re-traumatize the girl and then do it. I am not a persecutor. I know this. So why is that idiot Hody Pigo a stupid prosecutor?
What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
But at least it's over, right? So far, she would have told the police right when she woke up from surgery, and then she just told the prosecutor 4 times what happened to her. So 5 times total, and at least she's done, right? She never has to say it again, right? During the actual trial, the police were in charge of bringing her audio recording to the courthouse so that they could play it for the judge, right? Mm-hmm. They did not bring it on time. I don't know if they were stuck in traffic. I don't know if they were late. I don't know if they forgot. Who knows? So the prosecutor forced Nayoung to testify. She would have to dramatically share her story for the 6th time in her own words. She would be forced to sit there with sanitary pads that would be smeared by blood by the end of her testimony because many of her organs were still bleeding. Thankfully, she wasn't forced to be in the same exact room as her attacker Cho, but she could.
Stephanie Sue, I just agree with you. There's nothing thankfully about this thing. There's nothing thankfully about this thing. They're traumatizing that girl. They're dragging her through the mud just to get stupid justice. And how many years did that guy get? It happened in 2008, and he's out. So what the hell did all these dragging this little girl do? Nothing. Nothing. You guys traumatized her. There's nothing thankfully here. Nothing. The girl shouldn't have been in that situation at all. Counting it to the useless police officers who came to the hospital, to the stupid prosecutor, the holy pig of bitch. And now, come on, man. Are you serious? You drag her with a colostomy to come and testify? This guy should have gotten life looking at what you put all this girl through. And now it happened in 2008 and he's out. So you just did this in vain for nothing. And according to the title, this piece of rats, this piece of nothing, this piece of shit, this piece of my shit that I had this morning, that's him. This piece of my shit moved to the girl's neighborhood.
See him, and they could see her. She was placed in a second room in the courthouse, and on the wall there were 2 TV screens. One showed the judge, and another showed the defendant, Cho, in real time. Nayoung would have to stare at him while she recited all the details of what he did to her.
My God,
and then in
bro.
the courtroom, there would be a TV broadcasting Nayoung in real time for the judge, the lawyers, the audience, for all of them to watch. That evening, Nayoung went home to write in her diary. Today, a car took me to Seoul for the trial of the man who hurt me. There were 2 TVs in front of me, one with the judge. On the other, I could see the bad man. And all of a sudden, I was very scared.
Oh my
The
goodness.
psychopathy checklist is a 20-item scale to essentially see how psychopathic someone is. It's a bit of a controversial way of testing someone's psychopathy, but it's used frequently in South Korea. There's two main factors. Factor one is determining emotional detachment of the subject. So do they have superficial charm? Are they manipulative? Do they have an absence of guilt or empathy? Then you have factor two, a measure of antisocial behavior. Are they aggressive, impulsive, irresponsible? There's proneness to boredom. Psychopaths tend to have a low frustration tolerance. Do they live parasitic lifestyles where they leech off of people? The test itself is said to be very intense. In Korea, it is not a multiple choice online test where you have the little bubbles where it's like, do you strongly agree, strongly disagree with this? The psychopath test used by Korean researchers asks inmates to write essays in response to questions, and their responses are analyzed by a panel of psychiatrists to just carefully see what kind of traits they have. An average civilian typically scores around 5 to 6. That range is completely normal. And anything above 25 to 30 is psychopathic. Most inmates in South Korea have an average of 16.4 on the scale. For example, you know the case we recently talked about of the Korean woman who killed a stranger, dismembered her, and tried to dispose of her body in a suitcase because she wanted to experience what it felt like?
Yes. True crime.
Yes.
Sam.
She scored a 28.
Oh my goodness.
Cho scored a 29. And his wife was going to stay with him, knowing what he did. She stayed with him after his arrest, even finding out the crime that he was accused of doing, which he did. She tried to vouch for him even after his arrest. She told the judge saying that he wasn't, when he wasn't drunk, he was really kind. She said
I hope he does the same thing to you. I don't care, man. You're a stupid idiot. You're a stupid idiot. If I'm with somebody and they do that to an 8-year-old, I don't care what the reason is. I don't care whether you're drunk or not. I don't care what the reason is. It's over. You're a piece of shit. I don't need to be with you anymore. Everything we had in the past is canceled. That 8-year-old is going to live with that forever. You stand in front of the judge to defend this horrible piece of my shit I had this morning. And you are the toilet paper I used this morning. You're a piece of toilet paper. You're an idiot. And I wish something bad happened to you. Man, are you serious? Why is all this happening? This should have been an easy open and shut case. He did that to the 8-year-old. Whether you're drunk or not, you have to face the consequences. Leave the 8-year-old to recover and then put his ass on an electric chair. It will save all these psychopath tests and everything. He can be buried with his psychopathy.
he always did the dishes. He made rice. Sometimes he would make panchan, side dishes. He did laundry. He would help clean, and he was very polite. She said, my husband has never been angry. He is praised for being a polite person. I mean, aside from drinking and wandering around, my heart and my family life were truly peaceful. But that's really all she could say about him. Even if there was someone in Cho's life that knew him well, they did not want to stand up for him. And I'm sure, a lot of it has to do with the fact that why would they stand up for someone that's accused of assaulting an 8-year-old? But also, they genuinely had nothing good to say about this guy. He doesn't know how to keep a job. He has zero work ethic. He's not a great, happy, welcoming person. He used his wife to pay bills. I mean, with that, how do you try to do a character witness for anyone without perjuring yourself? All you could really do is go up on the stand and say, Your Honor, he existed. Like, that is the most neutral statement that you could make without lying. But I really don't think that anyone needed the psychopath test to understand that he was a complete psychopath. Even just the way that Cho would look at Na-young's parents during the trial, it was dripping with hatred. And he also tried to gaslight an 8-year-old. He tries to gaslight 8-year-old Na-young during the trial. It is absolutely vile. So Na-young stated countless times to authorities, the attacker was around 40 years old, had thin black hair, a round face, tan skin, tan and thick hands, and a very heavy physique. His voice sounded really heavy and he did not wear glasses. A bit about this. Cho is 57, but he dyed his hair black just to look younger than his actual age. Na-young mistook him to be in his 40s, which, even without the dyed hair is completely understandable. Like, I have never met a kid that accurately guesses the age of an adult. Most kids I've met claim their parents are 102 years old. But because Na-young said he looked 40 and had black hair, what does he do during the trial? He shows up looking as old as he can. He stops dyeing his hair, letting all of his white hairs grow out. He's trying his best to cast doubt on Na-young's story and memory. Na-young stated the attacker did not wear glasses. Guess who shows up to court wearing those thick, nearsighted glasses that are typically just used for reading? He loses a bit of weight before the trial. Na-young described her attacker as a heavy-physiqued man. The attorney would even point at Cho, and he's like, look at my client. Na-young's testimony is inconsistent with Cho's appearance.
But that's also like super dumb. You know, it's like, you really think just by doing that, we're going to buy your story?
It's
like, let me change my white shirt to black shirt. Now we don't know who you are. Like,
it's insulting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very, it's very like that type of, behavior. It's just like, well, I got you.
Even though she clearly identified him in a police lineup as well. Like, it's crazy. And they were playing very dirty. But fine, you can try all you want, changing your whole look, having your wife vouch for you, but nothing changes the facts. Everyone knows what he did. He left a trail of evidence at the crime scene. He thought leaving the water would keep him safe by erasing all the evidence, but it didn't. The police found several fingerprints in the restroom, all leading to Cho. Side note, in South Korea, when you get your ID card, they take a whole palm print. So it's not like the US where not everybody is in the system. Every single person in South Korea, even without a criminal record, is in the system. And the palm print is interesting. So even if you touch something with just the inside of your palm and not your fingers, they can still track it to you. The police ran the prints and it led to a man named Cho Do-sun. They found CCTV footage from buildings near the church. The man in the...
Look at this idiot, man. Everybody look at this. Look at him. It's unbelievable. This guy, he's the one the police is protecting. He's the one that did that to the 8-year-old. Him, this guy. Man. And the police are protecting him. Now I'm kind of angry at the 20-year-old at the beginning of the story. Dude, you had one chance. You had one chance to be a hero and be put with Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, all these great people, to have your name in the monument for unaliving a degenerate. You missed it twice. Your name could have been mentioned. I could have been wearing a t-shirt with your name on it for getting rid of that trash. And now the police is protecting that trash, that heap of human trash right there.
Footage matched the man in the system. When police went to his house, they found bloody socks and sneakers. The blood type on Cho's clothing was a match for Na-young's. So, yeah, you can try and not dye your hair, but the evidence is the evidence. But psychosis is defined as a severe mental condition in which thought and emotions are so affected that contact is lost with reality. Cho claimed he was in a state of psychosis when he assaulted Na-young. Okay, actually, that was his last version of events. Cho changed his story so many times throughout the trial. The very, very first time that he was questioned by police, he said that he came home after a smoke that morning. He started running the hot water for his wife so that when she got home after working the night shift, she could take a nice, long, hot shower. His alibi was, I was home. I wasn't out of church. I was home being a good husband. But his wife told the authorities that she came home after her night shift. Her husband was not home yet. She hopped in the shower. When she got out, he was home, had went to the room to change, plopped onto the bed without saying a single word to her, and fell asleep. The police caught him in his first lie. So Cho changed his story. He said, actually, what's interesting is I don't remember a single thing from that morning. So he went from remembering turning on the hot water for his wife, and now he doesn't remember anything. He even brought a 300-page handwritten testimony to court just denying everything. He wrote, Your Honor, people with psychosis often say that it's their own taste, but it's not my taste in dealing with a child in an adult way. An 8-year-old girl in my mind is just a baby girl, and hopefully a sprout, a seed in our country that is yet to bloom. It is absolutely unforgivable for someone to commit violence knowing a child is that young. How can I tell you the truth that this was not me? Your Honor, I will get surgery to remove my genitals to prove to you that it wasn't me. You
Go ahead and do that, you piece of shit. Go ahead and remove it. Matter of fact, you don't need a surgery. It needs to be chopped off and fed to your stupid wife.
may be framing me when someone else did this to her. I sincerely hope that you believe in the truth, Your Honor. He's doing the whole, if I'm lying, you can cut off my arm. Well, no, I can't cut off your arm even though I think you're lying because I would go to jail for that. It's like a very bizarre trump card to play in a very serious matter. He's insisting that this is not him. He would never do such a thing. He knows his character and he would hate people that does stuff like this. That was his news story. But eventually, that stops making sense. So then he goes with, okay, fine. You know what? I do remember things. I do. You know, the morning I went to the church building to use the restroom, the bathroom door burst open and a man rushes out. I saw little 8-year-old Nayoung on the floor. She's trying to stand up. I'm trying to help her. She just keeps plopping down again. And, you know, I got scared, you know, because I thought if I report this, I will be blamed for this. So I ran off. In his newest story, he is the victim in all of this. There was another man who did all of this and terrified both Nayoung and him. And now he's being framed for this man's crimes. This man kept changing his story based on how he felt the judge was perceiving his excuses. And if information came up to refute his previous statement, he would just come up with a new one. And I don't know how anyone could view him as a credible human being. Meanwhile, Nayoung's testimony, on the other hand, never changed. No matter how many times prosecutors and police officers forced her to repeat it, asked her questions, tried to test her credibility, she was absolutely sure of every single detail, even details like how Cho's breath smelled. She said it was a very strong, overpowering cigarette scent. It was foul. And they asked what other scents were there. Not too much alcohol smell, mainly cigarette. Cho's ears perked up. So did his attorneys. I think everyone in that courtroom knew what was about to happen, and that was gut-wrenching. Nayoung, an 8-year-old girl, had done her absolute best to tell the truth. She had been taught since she was a little baby, she's still a baby, that lying is bad. So she did everything to tell the truth on every little detail that was asked of her in a very traumatic situation 6 times. But she didn't know that the truth would be used against her and that the justice system was rigged against her. Cho now had a news story, one that he would stick by, okay? He did do everything. He committed the crime. He did that to Nayoung, but he can't be held responsible for it because he was in a state of psychosis. How and why was he in a state of psychosis? Because he was drunk. He argued that being drunk puts you in a state of temporary psychosis, that when you are drunk, you are unable to make decisions due to your compromised mental and physical state. You are unable to control yourself. You are in a state of psychosis. Okay, if this sounds absolutely unhinged to you, it is, but it works. According to Korean Criminal Code Article 55, Paragraph 1, people with weak abilities due to mental and physical disabilities are subject to a mitigated sentence. And in Korea, being drunk in the eyes of the law counts as a mental disability. Which means, according to the law, Cho's sentence could be reduced purely based on the fact that he was drunk. The difference would...
Do you realize that being drunk is a choice you make? And that mental health largely is not a choice. So the fact that you choose to get drunk, quote unquote, and do that to an 8-year-old shouldn't negate you or shouldn't protect you from consequences. Else, everybody and their mama are going to be drunk and do stupid shit. Is this real life right now? And the law protects this. Okay, so I got drunk. I unalive somebody. Oh, you know what? You're going to get a mitigated sentence because you were in psychosis anyway. Wow. That law needs to be revised. That law needs to be changed. My heart is beating so fast, man. I have a lot of things in my head. If I say it, I'll be terminated from this channel. I don't even know if I'm going to have a channel after this reaction because, man, I'm going in on this stupid piece of my turd. Oh my gosh, bro. I hate this guy with a passion. And I hate the system and the prosecutors and all of them for treating the girl like that. What did she do? Just going to school, just existing. And it's costing her all this stuff, using her own words against her. That idiot shouldn't have opened his mouth in the first place. Nobody should have listened to him. I don't care. He should have lost his rights to everything, to anything.
Would mean if he committed this act while he was sober, he could get life imprisonment. If he committed the act while drunk, his sentence could be as little as 7 years. In what world does being drunk excuse anything or make things less serious? Which, this logic is so infuriating. When an assaulter is drunk, he is unable to make decisions due to his compromised mental state. When a victim is drunk, it's you probably consented and now you regret it. Next time, don't drink so much because this is your fault. So if this drunk law applies to anybody, I don't think it should apply to anyone, but if it does, it should apply to victims. Unable to make decisions due to compromised mental state. Okay, so if victims are drunk, they are not able to make decisions, meaning they cannot give consent. Automatically, if they are drunk, it is essay then. That should be the law then. I don't think I have to tell you all the reasons why this defense being allowed is so horrendous. But let's just do a quick run through. First, being drunk is no excuse. Second, the fact that they are using Na-young's own testimony of saying that she smelled a little bit of alcohol in his breath as proof that he was drunk and should get 7 years in prison for his crime, that alone, using her testimony, should be a crime in and of itself. And third, there is no proof that he was drunk that day. There is more proof that he wasn't drunk at all. For example, the location of the crime was a pretty quiet alleyway with not a lot of passerbys during that time frame. People were commuting to work and school, so, for them to not pass through this alleyway, it's a very specific alleyway. Most alleyways have some action. They have some traffic going on. It seems like he knew that. It seems like Cho conveniently chose this location. Everything about this location indicated that this was not a spur-of-the-moment crime. It indicated more of a man that was stalking, waiting for the perfect victim. Another supporting fact, most bathrooms in Korea, like major cities, are locked. You have to either be a customer of that establishment or a worker has to unlock the bathroom or they have a keypad. So a lot of churches, they actually have keypads that most of the churchgoers know the password to. This bathroom didn't even have a keypad. Again, that doesn't seem like something that's based off pure chance and luck. The chances are in Ansan, more bathrooms are locked than unlocked. So he just happened to be in the perfect alleyway where there's no passerbys during commuting hours and no witnesses, and then immediately found the closest private one-unit restroom without even stalls that was unlocked. It seemed like he knew that the church workers were not going to be in the church at the time. Then after the crime, he didn't pass out in the bathroom. He didn't pass out in the hallway. He doesn't stumble drunkenly away from the crime. He ducks his head and he quickly makes his way back home. And he attempts to remove all the evidence from the unconscious victim by pouring ice cold water all over her. That is a lot of planning to do if you're blackout drunk. Even sober, every step of this crime would take strong decision making. Later, an inmate that shared the same cell with Cho would say that he didn't think that Cho was an alcoholic. Usually you can spot an alcoholic in prison from a mile away. It's really easy. Because there's no alcohol in prison, they start having withdrawal. Their hands start shaking uncontrollably. They start sweating. They can't fall asleep. They start vomiting. They've got these crazy migraines. Most of them become hypersensitive to light. The inmate said, Cho was fine. He was reading the Bible. He looked pretty comfortable. But the
Nigga, he was reading what? This guy's existence is an insult to everything. It's an insult to men, an insult to husbands, an insult to religion, an insult to people. And his existence is an insult. Oh my goodness, man. He was reading what?
The problem is, Cho does not have to provide evidence to the court that he was drunk the day of the crime. He just needs to prove to the court that he's, quote, just that type of guy. The type of person to get blackout drunk at 8:30 a.m. Even if he wasn't drunk on that day, as long as he can prove that he's the type, he will get a way lesser sentence. To give you context on how horrendous this little loophole in the law is, in December 2007, just a year prior to Na-young's attack, 2 girls in Gangnam were drunk at a club. They get lured to a hotel by 2 men. These men essay the girls, then call their friends over, hand over the hotel key, and at least another 5 men come in and essay the woman. All the men who planned and coordinated this group attack and essay, they all stated that they were drunk. They received massively reduced sentences because they weren't in their right minds. They had booked this hotel room in advance. So maybe the plan wasn't to target these 2 girls specifically, but they had plans to target somebody. But because they were drunk, everything was forgiven. In a lot of cases, the judge will even ask criminals that are on the stand, "Did you drink?" The defendant will excitedly bob their useless heads up and down and sign a petition that says, "I drank, I drank." Then the judge will give them a reduced sentence and on to the next case. It's almost like a custom. In Korea, 32.4% of criminals who commit essay claim alcohol was their reasoning for their actions. Not moral depravity, just alcohol. It's gotten to the point where in Korea there is a saying, the judges feed the defendants alcohol. There is a movie based off of this case called Wish. So in Korea, it's called Wish. In America, it's called Hope. And it is probably one of the most emotionally gut-wrenching movies out there. It's about a poor family in South Korea with an 8-year-old girl named Wish, Sohwon. And one day, on Sohwon's way to school, it's raining. This man comes up to her and asks, "Can I borrow your umbrella?" She tries to avoid him, but he ends up dragging her to a construction site where she is brutally beaten and essayed to the point of death. The premise is very well known. Sohwon used to be super close with her dad before this, but afterwards, she's so scared of any adult men. He tries to comfort her when she's in the hospital and she has a panic attack. She almost sees the attacker in her father. So Sohwon's dad has to stay out of her eyesight. He can't even see his own daughter because that's the best way for her to heal. And it's ripping him apart. All he can do is buy one of those giant Kokomon character costumes, like the one that you would see at Disneyland. And he would cheer her up while he's sweating in that costume, pretending to be Kokomon. And inside he would just be crying because he can't be her dad. He can only be this character. That's the only thing that she will see. And it's heartbreaking, literally on all fronts, to see how Sohwon has to recover in the movie, how her dad has to navigate trying to help his daughter heal while also simultaneously being rejected by her. And it's just a gut punch. In the end, Sohwon realizes that it's her dad in the costume. Kokomon leans down and she takes off the head of the costume. And it's just her father, completely drenched in sweat because there's no ventilation in those costumes, teary-eyed, and she realizes everything that her dad did for her. But there's also a scene in that movie where the judge sentences Sohwon's essayer to only 12 years in prison. And all hell breaks loose in the courtroom in the movie. Sohwon's mom is screaming at the judge, 12 years? 12 years. Do you know how old my daughter will be in 12 years? And a lot of viewers, they hated that scene in the movie. I mean, they wanted the predator to get life in prison. This is a movie, right? You can write it however you want. Give him the death sentence. Why are we all going home feeling unjust and crying, right? But at least it's just a movie. But art imitates life. Because Cho was sentenced to just 12 years in prison. It wasn't just in the movie. Na-young's
the piece of my turd got 12 years in prison. Yeah. So that is when you put your trust in the law and think the law is going to save you and think politicians and people are going to save you. Yeah, that's what you get. 12 years for a guy literally desecrating and destroying your whole intestines, essaying you like, and then they get 12 years because, oh yeah, I was drunk, and the stupid judge who's probably drunk himself accepted that and agreed to that. Wow. There are a lot of layers of stupidity on this one, and a lot of layers of sorrow and sadness on the path on the side of the 8-year-old. I wish she's growing well. I wish she's fine. But this is serious.
father cried out, "If this man cannot distinguish from right or wrong and cannot make decisions, that is the definition of a dead person, someone who does not know what is going on around them. How can you say that he is a dead person? He decided to approach Nayoung. He dragged her into the church bathroom and then assaulted her. How can someone who is apparently not in their right senses make all of these decisions?" Nayoung's father cried that he had to be the one to tell his daughter. His 8-year-old daughter that chose the very bad guy that broke the law, the country decided to just give him 12 years. Nayoung responded to her dad, "Too little." Her dad asked her, "How long do you think the sentence should have been?" 50 years. Or better yet, they should stop giving him food. The judge can't make the wrong decision like this. Later, she asked her dad, "Is this a joke?" From a justice standpoint, it is a sick joke. Not only did the brutality and heinous nature of the crime warrant a very harsh punishment, Cho Do-soon was not a first-time offender. Cho Do-soon had a history of 17 criminal offenses. This was his 18th offense.
Wow.
Cho's 17 prior criminal offenses were not even small minor infractions at that. He was arrested, tried, and convicted, prior to all of this, of sexual assault and murder. We're going to get to all of these in a minute. If any single person in that courtroom should have gotten the book thrown at them, it should have been Cho Do-soon. Judge Lee, who presided over this case, Nayoung's case, faced a lot of backlash over his decision. His response was to play the victim. I mean, I guess...
Now, screw you. Screw you. You're a stupid judge. And you go in the history books of letting this monster out of jail. You're a very, very, very stupid judge, and accept that from the bottom of my heart. You are so stupid. Very stupid. I don't care. His lawyers were not shit. The prosecutors were trash anyway. And because of alcohol, you just give him the lowest sentence, looking at a girl who had this colostomy bag climb to share her testimony. And then at the end of the day, because of alcohol, you're a stupid judge. You're an idiot. Everything you've ever done is useless. This has canceled everything in my eyes. I don't know you anyway, and I don't want to know you because I don't care about useless people like you. So yeah, you're a stupid idiot.
Birds of a feather flock together, right?
To play the victim?
Yeah.
The judge is playing the victim?
The judge said, "Judges are just public servants. As a public official, I am reflecting on the fact that I have not met the public sentiment. And because of that, not just me, but my whole family is suffering a lot from this case."
Yeah, screw you and your family.
Judge Lee felt like it wasn't his fault that the law was written the way it was written, and that as a judge, he has to follow the law. He said it's not appropriate for the judge to talk about the verdicts. If mental and physical weakness is recognized at the investigation stage, there is no way for the judge to change that. The judge claims that he believes his hands are clean and free from guilt because as a judge, he's just following the laws. It's the prosecutor's fault for not applying for an appeal. The public was clearly not happy with his response either because the judge could have just thrown his defense out the window and said, "Yeah, I don't care if you were drunk." It was really up to the discretion of the judge. So this whole I'm following the letter of the law, that's not what the letter of the law says. It says you can get a minimum of 7 years, but you can still get life imprisonment, even if you're drunk.
So I think it sounded like this drinking was a thing in Korea for so long that people just been applying that to all these heinous crimes, and this is just another one of those. It's like, oh, you drunk? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think they're just so accustomed to that law.
Which is
that
crazy.
They don't even care about what the crime is anymore.
They're saying it's like a custom, it's a formula. You're drunk? Okay, here's a random sentence that means nothing.
And that's been changed now, right? It's changed, or it's changing.
Barely.
Really?
Not really. There are some amendments to laws, but no, I'm going to hit you with some recent cases soon. Yeah. And a lot of netizens argued, if you want to argue the letter of the law as some excuse for your choice to sentence Cho to 12 years, then let's argue the letter of the law. Why is Cho being charged with SA? This was clearly attempted murder. Inflicting such visually fatal injuries on a child in the harsh winter and leaving cold water running over her unconscious body, you cannot try and argue in any way that you had no idea that this could kill the child. This is a case of attempted murder. How could the judge not see that? And with his criminal record of 17 prior major offenses, how could the judge give him 12 years? What? He's just gonna spend 12 years in prison, get out a new man? It is very hard for sex offenders to reform. A Korean news network, MBC, went to interview offenders like Cho. They've committed heinous crimes against children, and now they're free. Did they reform? Did they feel genuine remorse? Maybe if the public could understand them, they could understand what Cho was going to be like when he got out. Side note, when I say these offenders are free, I'm talking they're free. I genuinely mean it. In the United States, about 44 states have a variation of a law called Jessica's Law. The law in most states restricts child SAers from living near schools, parks, or anywhere where children can gather together. In Korea, they tried to pass a similar law, but it seems very unlikely to pass because Korea is such a densely populated country. That's not me defending why it can't be passed. Trust me. I have better hills to die on than the comfort and rights of child predators. But a researcher at the Korean Institute of Criminology stated, such a law is unrealistic to apply in Korea, especially in Seoul and its surrounding regions, considering that schools, tutoring schools, like those hagwons, kindergartens, child-related facilities, they're virtually everywhere. They argue, plus, what if the law is abused by some people who would be willing to open a child-related facility to make their neighborhood an off-limit zone to ex-convicts? Again, not the hill that I'm trying to die on.
Not just as convicts, people who are SAers. People who've essayed people. That's what I'm talking about. Those convicts who essayed people don't have to live by schools. They don't have to live by children's parks. If their schools littered in that community, they can go live in bunkers. They can go live on trees. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody asks them to essay 80-year-old girls. Nobody asks them to essay anybody. Why are you thinking about perpetrators? Why are you thinking about the people that essayed people? Why are they so much important to you guys? I do not understand that. So they can live by schools, they can live with victims. Somebody essays somebody, and then their rights becomes everybody's concern. Oh, well, if we ask them not to live by schools, there are schools everywhere. Where do they go live? Dig a hole in the ground and live in it, big, because you chose your path, and now you got to face the consequences. Well, how dare you? Oh, yeah, we can't have them live in schools. Bro, are you serious right now? You disgusting pieces of shit.
Technically, released predators in South Korea can purchase, rent an apartment right next to an elementary school with windows facing directly into the playground if they so wish. And they do. There is an essayer that lives right next to a kindergarten. This is not Cho Do-sun, but similar crimes. MBC followed him. He stayed home all day and only came out when the playground outside filled up. Wow. Kids had gotten out of school, they were playing. He would get up on one of the swings and just swing around while staring at the children.
Do people not know that's him?
No. His previous victims were between 7 to 11 years old. None of the kids there, none of the adults knew that there was a predator, a pedophile on the playground. MBC tried to talk to him and he was angry. He lashed out. Are you here to let the world know about me or something? I'm already intimidated as it is. Are you trying to tell everyone in the neighborhood? I mean, you know full well how pitiful my life is, how people like us live.
No freaking.
Yeah, people like you are not supposed to live in the first place. You are lucky. You live in a country that allows you to live. And also, you are lucky that you get to live wherever you want to live. Oh, yeah, pitiful how you live. Bro, you made your decision. You made your bed. You're lying in it, you stupid idiot. And also, you stay indoors till the children come out. People of South Korea, you know what? I'm sorry to hear this, but this law sucks so bad. It sucks ass. It sucks ass so bad. There has to be petitions written to change this because a predator like this is indoors and comes out when kids are out. When kids are outside, comes out. I don't care if he offended 15 years ago, 20 years ago. He's a predator and he has to live inside a pit or on trees.
Fucking way.
It
He said
gets-
people like us.
It gets worse. He finally sat down, and this was an anonymous interview, so we don't know what his face looks like. And he opened up to the producers. He has to wear an electronic monitoring device, an ankle bracelet, and he complained about it. He said, even when I put clothing underneath it, it really hurts. Like to have this heavy thing pressed up on the skin, it's gonna start to sag. When I move around, the hard thing, it chafes my skin and it pokes me. So it gets red and I get blisters and it just really hurts. I mean, it's just kind of useless too. Like I may be wearing this, but what I realized is it doesn't really have a real effect. I just lower my pants and I hide it, and you can mess with it and touch it without anyone knowing.
Man, I wish that ankle monitor was made and fortified in the shape of a big ass wiener and shoved in your ass. Yes, that is how your ankle monitor should be, an asshole monitor.
The producers were like, whoa, let's bring it back to the crime and the victims. Like, we're here to figure out if this guy is remorseful. And they said, those kids, you scarred those kids for life. And what do you want me to do about it? Oh, I scarred them for life. I should feel pain too? Like, you want me to live like that too?
Oh my God.
It doesn't matter to me whether they're hurt or dead. The important thing is I'm not going to suffer more because of them anymore. It's not like they're kind of some grand, beautiful woman or Jesus Christ or anything like that. They're just some ugly kids.
No.
But because of them, I'm suffering. It's
Somebody please unalive this guy, man. Please, please, somebody just unalive him. Somebody just unalive him, throw him somewhere. Bro, what? Oh, please, God, unalive this guy, man. Please unalive him. I can't stand this stupid ass. Bro, oh my gosh, bro.
totally useless.
Wow, this is unreal.
Did you intentionally try to avoid places with children or minors? Of course, I intentionally avoid all places with minors. I try to avoid those places on purpose because involuntarily, even without noticing, I start having those thoughts again if I'm around. So I avoid them on purpose. He was not telling the truth. They saw him at the playground that day, and the very next day they were watching him, he went straight to the playground. All he does is stare at the children, which is more than enough, like, put the man back in jail, please. But that's right now. The judge ruled that he is high risk of reoffending.
And they're not doing anything about it.
NBC went and
That's
found...
insane.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you finding out your kids is sitting at the playground and there's someone just standing there.
And he's...
And the people say, what can we do, right?
Yeah. There's nothing you can do. There's really nothing you can do. If I find out that's a offender and I try to warn all the other moms in the neighborhood by texting that address, I can get sentenced to prison for 5 years.
Whoa!
Effectively doxing a predator.
Hey, South Korea, man, you guys got to do something. At this point, you guys got to do something. You guys have to do something. This law is stupid. This law stinks. This law sucks. This law is an idiot. This law is stupid. Who wrote this shit? Who wrote this garbage? Who wrote this garbage? Who wrote this garbage? South Korea, do something about that stupid law. Man, you can't dox a predator, whereas we've seen a lot of cases doxing innocent victims. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Today?
Today, NBC went and found addresses to high-risk offenders against children. Most of them, shockingly or not, live near playgrounds or kindergartens. Currently, statistics show that out of all the children predators released from prison, in Seoul, 88.5% of them live within a half-mile radius of a school. You can't tell me that's just a coincidence, an innocent coincidence. Statistics also show when offenders wearing anklets commit crimes again, they reoffend. It happens within a 0.5 mile radius from their house. NBC found another one of those offenders to see if maybe he had reformed. He felt remorse for what he did. He had assaulted an 11-year-old when he was like 70-something years old.
What?
He is now 80, and he was actually very happy to talk to NBC. His face was blurred, but he wanted to share his story. He said, "You know about her, right?" "Are you talking about the victim?" "Yeah, the victim. I have a lot to say about her. You know, instead of calling me grandpa, she called me 아저씨, mister. Back when I was 72, she called me 아저씨 instead of grandpa. So I thought that was a little strange, and I think I lost my mind because of it. She was begging me to do stuff to her. I guess she just had a very, yearning for adult activities." "She told you to touch her, the child did?" "Yes. She would come up to me, unbuttoning her clothes." "A child in elementary school did that?" "Yeah, so I did what she wanted me to do." He claims he was the victimized one. "I didn't take her for that kind of person, but I think she totally planned everything. I told the police she's a gold digger, a baby gold digger." "Did the child, the 11-year-old, ask you for money?" "She didn't ask me for money, but I gave her pocket money, like $2 a day." Anyway, I guess she lives around here. Because if I go near a subway station, the anklet starts alerting the police and they call me. They call me to keep away from the subway station. When I think about it even now, I really would just want to kill her. "So you harbor some resentment towards the child." "Resentment? Did you not hear me? I said I want to kill her. I want to kill her."
This is unbelievable.
Another tried to argue that the child he essayed was basically a young woman at this point. She was like 9. So there wasn't anything unjust about it. He also added, "If you keep oppressing us, there are only 2 things we can do. Either die or go back to prison."
Please, please do the world a favor and do those things for us. Do the world a favor. Man, you will do us a favor. We will write your name under our feet and step in shit to memorize and commemorate your stupid memories. Please do both of those things for us. Plus, I am ready. I will start it. I will write your name under my feet. Step into every dog shit so your name will be imprinted in every dog shit. Idiot.
Okay, die. Sorry. One profiler who works with offenders, including Cho, said, "The thing with these criminals, the one thing that they have in common is they think the cause of their problem lies with the victim. So even if they're released from prison, they blame the victim for causing the problem and they feel wronged. They think to themselves, I wasn't that bad, but they made me out to be this heinous criminal. And they maintain this very distorted perception of life." A lot of these other offenders have been dubbed in media as Chos, even though that's not clearly their names, because labeling someone as Chodusun, even though that's not his name, tells you all you need to know about this person and what they did. Professor of psychology Lee Soo-jung said, "There are many child offenders like Cho Do-sun in our country before this case, and it seems like there will be many more after. There are not many, actually very few countries that would allow a child sex offender to return to his place of residence so freely without any special precautions. And it seems very unlikely for someone like Cho to reform. His whole life, 70 years, all he's known is himself and violence. That's all he cares about." Cho had to drop out of 6th grade because he was a raging bully. He never went back to school. That's the extent of his education. At 18, Cho committed his first known crime. He stole a bike. He was caught, but it appears that he really likes theft. He kept stealing. He was very active at one point, lived with multiple women, and no judgment on this part if it's not Cho, but I just don't think that everything would have been consensual and everyone was of age, right? I doubt it. Cho was convicted of assaulting one of his roommates. He served a small, light prison sentence for it. He was then later arrested of essaying a 19-year-old when he was 31. He was only sentenced to 3 years in prison for that. When he got out, he married his current wife, known by the media as Miss O, and they had a son. But the son ended up passing away when he was only 3 months old. And they had a pet Maltese. But he allegedly killed that pet Maltese for peeing on the carpet. It's alleged that Cho threw the Maltese on the ground multiple times and then gouged out its eyes with sticks. He would later allegedly say that he did it because he loved his wife so much. That dog was not peeing on the pee-pee pads, and therefore that dog was bad for his wife, so he had to kill the dog out of love for his wife.
You know what he did to the dog? I pray that that is done to him out of love for the citizens of Great Korea, of Great South Korea. Yeah, because if exactly that is done to him, that would be the best thing ever, ever to like in South Korea. That is how I feel. If the thing he did to the dog is done to him, oh, thank God. Man, it will be, oh, wow.
Side note, his wife is 15 years younger than him, and a producer that interviewed people involved in this case stated it's unclear if Cho's wife is a victim or an enabler or both, so it's very difficult to understand her and her actions.
She's a
but
piece
she
of
has
shit.
done some really unsavory things with this whole situation. She was visited by an NBC producer before Cho's release, and she screamed through the door, "Leave! Get out!" The producer asked, "But did you divorce your husband?" "I didn't divorce him. If he doesn't drink, he's fine at home." The victim lives nearby. "I don't know, okay, and I don't care about anything like that. I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know. I'm not interested." She is still with him to this day. Now, I digress. Then just 13 years before Nayoung's attack, Cho was arrested for murder. Almost 13 years on the dot. December 21st, 1995. The attack on Nayoung was December 11th, 2008. Cho was 43 years old when he killed someone. He was out drinking with his friends when this 60-year-old man, who was not friends with Cho, is not part of the friend group, made this passing comment at the bar about a past president that he supported. Cho went into this violent, erratic, hysterical temper tantrum, and out of nowhere, he just starts pummeling this old man and would not stop until there was blood and brain matter everywhere. The old man's face was completely disfigured, and he was dead. Cho was only sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Because
Yep, South Korea law sucks. Please, I love the people of South Korea. The people of South Korea are awesome. I always praise the people of South Korea as being one when it comes to tragedy and stuff like that. And knowing the South Korean culture, extremely beautiful. But the law, like this, sucks ass.
he's drunk.
Yeah. And I can't make this up. Just 8 days later, the Korean law was reformed, and those convicted of murder would be given life sentences with the possibility of parole. But still, if he had killed this man 8 days later, he would have been given a life sentence. Even if later that life sentence was reduced, he would still be in prison on December 11, 2008, and Nayoung would not have been attacked. That law went into effect just 8 days later, and it did not apply retroactively. So they can't just go in and be like, never mind, Cho, we're going to change it for you too. But I guess even at that time, the new law, it still was not much. The 5-year sentence was too long according to the Korean justice system, if you can call it a justice system at that point, because that sentence was then reduced to 2 years in prison. Cho was released after 2 years in prison because he was drunk when he killed.
Yeah, this is not a Korean justice system. This is the Korean perpetrators loving system. This is the Korean criminal loving system. This is the South Korean criminal criminal romanticizing system. They romanticize the criminals and come, oh, you did that to the 8-year-old? Well, screw that 8-year-old. You are drunk, right? Yeah, you're just going to get 12 years. That 8-year-old can fend for himself. And after that, you see that there's a school down there. There's a school down there. We'll give you a discount on the apartment in there, so you can pick and choose any child of your choice, and then stalk them and look at them. Oh, you know what? Oh, you unalive the man? Oh, poor man. He can be in the dirt. You know what? You are drunk, right? Yeah, we'll just give you 5 years, and after that you come back, and there's a church down there. They have a bathroom without a code. Go live right there. You can do some things in there. You come, we'll give you the drunk excuse again. And guess what? You just get a little bit of time. Yeah, I'm your judge. Yeah, I'm Judge Dickhead. And you know what? Yeah, I look like I'm an idiot. Yeah, South Korea, that's how your law sounds like. I'm sorry, but you guys are awesome. You are awesome people. Don't get me wrong. But the laws have to change. Seriously. That alcohol excuse have to be erased. And people have to face the full rigors of the law if they do stupid stuff.
That man. The same excuse he would use 13 years later. Part of Nayoung's therapy was writing in her journal and drawing. It was just a good way for her to process her emotions. Nayoung's dad said, Nayoung changed a lot since the attack, you know? She's still passionate, still energetic, but there was, that's something that Cho could never take away from her. But that carefree attitude that every child should have the right to have, that every adult on this planet should honestly work collectively to protect, that was gone. And it was very hard for Nayoung's parents and Nayoung's older sister. They wanted to do everything to help, but sometimes they don't know how to help. Nayoung's dad said, my child writes in a diary every day, and I read it secretly sometimes because I just want to know her thoughts. But no matter what happens, she blames herself first. One day I scolded her, and I felt really sorry about it. So I looked at her diary, and I thought that she was going to write like a normal child. My dad scolded me, so I'm mad. But instead she wrote, even if I were my dad, I would have scolded myself too. Clearly, I deserved it. And Nayoung's dad's heart just broke into two. I mean, for one, she's so quick to think that things are her fault. And two, she's growing up way too quickly. Kids her age are supposed to be angry when their parents yell at them. They're supposed to not be understanding and not supposed to be seeing everybody's point of view. They're supposed to be children. Nayoung's dad said, until last year, she was a normal elementary school student. But now it seems like she has the mentality of a college student. And every 2 weeks, Nayoung's dad feels like he has to cut open his own chest and rip out his heart because every 2 weeks they have to travel to Seoul. She has her counseling treatments, but also they have to go see a specialized doctor who was working on creating her an artificial anus. Now, side note, he was doing this free of charge. The doctor had heard about the case on the radio and offered up his services. The artificial rectum would hopefully mean that she would not need the colostomy bag anymore.
Thank God.
Even that is not easy. The operation should typically only take 4 hours for most people, but Nayoung would need to have multiple surgeries, and the first one lasted over 10 hours. When the doctors opened her up, they realized that her organs were basically tangled. There was a ton of inflammation and scarring inside of her little body. One side of her pelvis had hardened like stone. It was a lot. And even when they were successful at implanting the artificial rectum, she would still need copious amounts of therapy to try and get her own tissues to have that regular bowel movement again. And until then, she would still need her colostomy bag. And the family, they don't have a lot of money, especially after taking off time to take care of Nayoung. They're barely making ends meet. They don't own a car. So every 2 weeks, Nayoung's dad has to watch Nayoung wake up and walk up and down the subway stairs, clutching her giant colostomy bag that hits her knees. And she never complains. She's healing so slowly, but there's healing. Last time Nayoung's family shared one of her drawings with the public, it was of Cho in the cell eating a bowl of cockroaches and a hammer on his head. Now she's drawing SpongeBob with sunglasses. And SpongeBob is smiling, and another one is like a pretty princess with long flowy hair. And they asked her, why the glasses? And Nayoung said, oh, I thought if I put glasses on, he would look cooler. So I tried SpongeBob with glasses. And the princess, that's me. And Nayoung would smile, and the scar on her cheek would go up. But even going to Seoul to get counseling and medical treatments, it's a huge stress on Nayoung. Not just the physical act of getting on the subway and making this very strenuous trek, but for a lot of reasons. Nobody in school, except some of her closest teachers and friends, knew that she is Nayoung. From what I can tell, everyone has been incredibly diligent about keeping her identity private because that's what she wishes. But it also poses some difficulty. Nayoung needs to leave school early and show up for these random medical treatments. And because everyone in the area knows that a girl around her age is Nayoung around this area, sometimes it makes them question, is she Nayoung? She wrote in a journal, Today I had to go home early, so I couldn't stay till the end of 6th period. I just went home. I think my friends will think that I'm weird. What am I going to tell them on Monday? That's what I worry about the most. I wish I didn't have to be sick. I regret it a lot. The only people that should have regrets are the people trusted to carry out justice, because clearly they did not. But not everyone in this case is evil. All the schools in Ansan, they came together to hold assemblies telling the students to stop talking about who Nayoung might be. Parents were instructed to double down. They would bring home their children and they say, we don't know who Nayoungi is, okay? But how sad would it be if she's your classmate and she heard you talking about who she may or may not be? Nayoung's closest friends, they knew what happened to her, and they all quietly protected her. These are 8-year-olds. They did a better job than the justice system at protecting Nayoung. Nayoung would miss class once. Another classmate asked her, why do you skip school so often? Nayoung didn't know what to say, so she started hesitating. One of her friends stood up. That's why you need to eat all your side dishes and vegetables. This one's a picky eater. She always gets stomach aches and needs to go to the hospital. One of her other friends chimed in, yeah, you need to eat more. Nayoung would forever be grateful because she just felt so protected by them. But they can't protect her from certain things. Nayoung's family could only get adult-sized colostomy bags from the hospital. It would reach down to her knees, and it was clearish, so you could see the level of fecal matter in there. You could also see when fecal matter was coming out of her stoma. And Nayoung would come home early from school, sometimes because it would fall out, or it would fall off, or sometimes it would overflow onto the ground and fecal matter would spill everywhere, and Nayoung would have to come home early from school. Thankfully, a medical company reached out and promised to send her colostomy bags for as long as she would need, whatever size she would need, child-sized colostomy bags. But she still had to wash it out. She still had to throw out her own fecal matter. And it's hard. Sometimes it leaks. It's a mess. It's not pleasant because the minute that you unplug it, it leaks down onto your body. So her dad made her this contraption. It's this makeshift funnel, almost like a makeshift sink that flows into the toilet bowl. She can unhook her colostomy bag from her stoma, have it flow into this makeshift funnel, and it funnels into the toilet. It matches her height. She has to use it 5 times a day to empty her bag, clean it, and exchange it for a new bag. And we don't know if Nayoung said thank you to her dad, but it's pretty clear that it meant a lot to her. She wrote in her diary, today I had one of those snack packages with the toys inside. It was my first time assembling a toy like that. I completed it in one try. I did it really well. I constructed it pretty good. I'm just like my dad, so I'm good at making and fixing things. Sorry. And I am thankful I was born. But there are things that Nayoung can't do anymore, and her dad can't create an invention to solve it. In May, Korea has something called Children's Day. It's this huge celebration in Korea where parents show appreciation to their children. Relatives come over, give the family kids money and gifts. I mean, kids probably love Children's Day more than Christmas. It's a big deal. Nayoung just had a simple wish. Go to the amusement park for Children's Day. When she told her dad that, his heart sank. He could have saved up for a toy. He could have learned how to cook a new dish. But in an amusement park, Nayoung's colostomy bag had to be emptied frequently. It made it nearly impossible for her to be outside for long periods of time unless she's at a hospital. But Nayoung's dad didn't want to say that, so he tried to cheer her up by ordering her favorite pizza. And she would sit there on the ground staring at her pizza. And they have a really small house. They don't have space for a dining table, so they have one of those foldable tables that you fold out and put on the ground. And you sit on the ground and eat, and when you're done, you fold it back up and put it away. She wouldn't even make eye contact with her dad. She wouldn't even touch the pizza. He poured her a cup of orange juice. Here, drink this. This is the one that you like. I don't want it. Her dad got up and went to the fridge. Okay, well, how about some yogurt? Why don't you pick one of these to try? She refused to drink any of the ones that he tried to give her. He said, I feel like I'm living with my in-laws right now. Come on, Nayoung, do you want to go see a movie? Nayoung wouldn't even snort. She wouldn't even look at him. Nayoung's dad was so stressed. I mean, it's hard enough to get Nayoung to eat as it is. She doesn't absorb nutrients well, and she has to eat 3 times more than the other kids to grow at the same rate. She was over 4 feet tall and only weighed 55 pounds. It took him a long time to get a juice in one hand and a slice of pizza in her other hand, and he pulled out a yellow gift box, and her face lit up. What is that? Someone who knew her and knew what she had been through knew that she liked The Simpsons, and they sent her a toy set for Children's Day. Nayoung was so happy she spent all day assembling her Simpsons toys on the window in her room. And later, Nayoung would actually grow out of Children's Day. She got hit with what her dad calls junior high school student sickness. All of Korea calls it that. It's another word for puberty, when kids don't want to be around their parents anymore. Nayoung's dad said, when I come home, she doesn't say anything. No matter how much I ask about her day, it's always yes or no, yes or no. He said, in the past, she followed me around, daddy, 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 but these days, she only likes her friends. This stage is really sad for a lot of parents, but I wonder if there's a twinge of happiness for Nayoung's dad because Nayoung is now experiencing such a normal stage in childhood, just like all of her friends, the teenage puberty, too cool for her parents phase. But there is a voice that is lingering in the back of his mind. Psychiatrists have all warned Nayoung's parents that puberty can bring back a lot of trauma. Her emotional wounds were healing, but they could burst open again. Because when we hit puberty, we learn a deeper understanding of and we will recall feelings and experiences from the past that we tried very hard to suppress. It's a hard time because victims who are essayed as a child, they could feel a bit of healing, they could make progress, but this could be a huge setback because they're starting to understand what fully happened to them.
Wow.
But Nayoung's dad is hopeful. He believes that she's healing slowly, bit by bit, with the help of all the wonderful people in her life. The doctors, even the ones that are not involved in her care anymore, they will jump out of bed and run to Nayoung if she needs anything. One police officer, who Nayoung called Police Officer 언니, she meets with Nayoung frequently to take care of her. Former counselors, attorneys, the CEO of the movie company that produced the movies Howon, that was loosely based off of Nayoung's story, they're all part of Nayoung's life. And because of that, Nayoung does not complain. She wants to grow up and become a doctor. She said that she just wants to help people, and this feels like this is where the story should end, right? A child who, against all odds, against the scum of the earth that tried to kill her, goes on this journey of healing and becomes someone that the world is proud of and inspired by. That's the end. That should be the end. So why is this episode not over? Because the real Cho Do-sun was set to be released December 13th of 2020. And it was announced that he would be moving back to Ansan, the city of the crime and the city where Nayoung still lives, the city that she calls home. It is said that his apartment would be half a mile from her family home. A 5-minute walk. The phrases Cho Do-sun fear started trending in South Korea. People started circulating messages on social media titled, "How to stab Cho where it hurts if you run into him." And nothing is helping ease the public. Psychological experts who worked with Cho diagnosed him as having intermittent explosive disorder, which has been defined as an impulse control disorder characterized by sudden unwanted anger. People with IED can essentially explode into a rage despite lack of apparent provocation or reasoning. There are a lot of people who have this disorder and they work with managing their emotions, trying to identify trigger points. And they can lead very loving, nonviolent lives regardless of their diagnosis. But clearly, Cho was not one of them. So this is adding to the anxiety that the general public feel that this man is about to be free. Experts even stated that to make matters worse, it is clear that Cho does not believe there are real consequences to his actions. Imprisonment, the threat of future imprisonment, that's not going to stop him from reoffending. The same profiler who worked with Cho said, someone like Cho, he gets a lot of satisfaction from his actions, not just the act itself, but we believe that he gets satisfaction from watching his victim and the victim's families collapse. The damage done to the victim's life, that is an addiction and a satisfaction for someone like him. Cho was given a test that measured his likelihood of reoffending his same offense. And they measured things like family environment, criminal history, employment. It scored through 30. Anything above 13 is considered a very high risk of reoffending. Cho scored 17. And yet, he's going to be released? Stories from prison started circulating around this time. So before his release, there was more buzz about Cho and everyone wanted to know, has he changed? Is he safe to be back out in public? Like, are we just releasing an unhinged monster out into the streets? Spoiler, yes, we are. stories from prison started coming out. Fellow cellmates started being interviewed, which honestly really did not help ease the general public about Cho being released. Apparently, Cho felt no remorse in prison, or at least he never showed his inmates. Instead, he was on this high horse all the time about how he thought that child offenders were disgusting, vile people that deserved to die.
What?
Yeah. But to him, it wasn't. He was not one of those people because he was blackout drunk and doesn't remember the crime. He also stated to an inmate that he's a scapegoat and there is no real evidence he's not the one that did this. Yeah. Cho also complained a lot about his circumstances and being in prison. He said, "I feel like a bird that wants to fly but is caught in a cage. I yearn for freedom and I count the days until that's possible." Inmates said that while Cho was in prison, he focused a lot on working out. He allegedly told inmates he was terrified that someone was going to attack him when he gets out, so he needs to work out. One commentator said, "Why? Why precious? Is your body more precious than an 8-year-old's body?" No matter what, Cho will always care for his own physical body. He will go to whatever lengths for himself, which is terrifying. Knowing that Cho allegedly told one of the arresting officers later after the trial, "I'm going to work out in prison, build up my strength, and I'll see you 12 years later." Allegedly, he would also complain about the food in prison. He would complain that he wasn't getting enough food to bulk up. He would allegedly ask the people serving the food, "Is this food for a human? Why are you giving me such little food?" Yep. And because he was so ripped, the inmate said he actually did not get wrecked in prison like a lot of notorious child offenders would. He was kind of the top dog in the prison. When an inmate was asked why, the inmate said, "I don't know. He's been in there a long time. He's old. He's got a dirty looking face. His face is, his hair is white. He doesn't shave." The inmate continued, "My first impression of him was that he looked like a violent offender." How do you differentiate between a violent offender just by looking at them? It's in the eyes. You're in prison, you can tell. It's in the eyes. Cho told the other inmates that when he gets out, he wants to sell coffee on the mountainside. I don't know if that means he wants to open up a cafe. That's what it was interpreted as. But either way, it's astonishing that this man is here thinking about his future. But the most terrifying part of all of this is that it's said that he still has a very high sex drive at 68 years old. One psychologist stated he's still excessive in his desires, and those desires are being actively expressed in his behavior. So yes, this does raise a bit of concern. According to
The concern I have is chopping off his stupid dick. Chop it off, give it to his stupid wife to eat, and then the sex drive thing is cured.
an inmate, this is an allegation, but allegedly, Cho would tell his fellow inmates that the electromagnetic waves from the TV and the CCTV cameras were suggestive to him, and he would aggressively self-pleasure himself to those electromagnetic waves. So why can't the government do something? Because he does not sound like he is ready to be a part of society. The best option the government could have done would have been 12 years ago. When Cho tried to use that drunk defense, they could have thrown it out. The prosecutors could fought like hell, tooth and nail to get that defense thrown out. But they didn't. They didn't even appeal when the sentence was given. Now it's too late to appeal his sentence. He cannot be tried again for his crime because that would be against his constitutional right of double jeopardy. The government cannot now reverse the sentence or add on more years. I mean, there were conversations that he and other offenders should be held in a halfway house outside a prison when their sentence is over. So you stay in there until we are sure that you will not reoffend. But that idea, this bill, has been shut down by human rights activists because they are worried that it would be abused, and criminals could be held indefinitely in that halfway house. Human Rights Commission of Korea stated, detaining an inmate who has already finished their jail term is a violation of a human right. Netizens thought, okay, then what about we chemically castrate him? So in 2011, South Korea enacted a law that allowed judges the power to sentence sex offenders who attack children under the age of 16 to be chemically castrated. Chemical castration is when you use chemicals or drugs to stop the sex hormone production. The purpose is to lower libido and activity. It can also be used to treat things like cancer, so it's not just used for like offenders or criminals or anything like that. There's a lot of medical reasons why one might need one. But a lot of countries have talked about chemical castrating for offenders. And it sounds crazy. Chemical castration, like those two words sound unhinged, but it's really not. Chemical castration is not removing any organs. You're just taking chemicals to suppress drive.
So it's not even like a one surgery, one shot. It's like a constant.
Yes, it's not permanent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not a form of sterilization either. You can continue to have children. I mean, generally, chemical castration is reversible when you stop the treatment, when you stop receiving those chemicals. And there are some risks, like increased body fat and reduced bone density and increase in long-term risk of cardiovascular disease. But like birth control probably has same amount of risks. And compared to the injuries inflicted by Cho, I would say that these side effects seem non-existent. But that law was passed in 2011. It does not work retroactively. So no one can force Cho to be chemically castrated. He also cannot be forced to live away from schools like we talked about. In fact, he can't even be forced to live a certain distance away from his victim. He can move half a mile away if he so wishes, which is exactly what he does when he gets out. And side note, this is so angering, but I do think that a lot of city officials, the prosecutor that worked on this case, and someone in Ansan that's making these horrible decisions, they should feel guilt. They should feel shame for the rest of their lives. Get this. Nayoung's family were struggling before Nayoung's attack. Nayoung's dad was a daily worker, meaning he would go out and offer manual labor for the day. If someone needed his services, he would make money. If they didn't, he made no money. And the problem is, at that point, you're so desperate for any money, you just take any amount of work for any low cost. Nayoung's mom was a housekeeper and worked random other jobs to put food on the table. They did not have enough money. After the attack, both parents had to quit their jobs to take care of Nayoung, to make her feel emotionally and mentally secure, and to help her physically. Nayoung received payments from the Ansan city. Not a lot, okay? $5,000 to help pay for the hospital expenses and other things. But in June 2009, Nayoung's health insurance came through and paid the family $32,000 for the attack. The city of Ansan then went to the family and demanded the return of $5,000.
What?
Screw the city. Screw the city of Ansan. Screw the city, not the people that live in the city. The people that went to the family to get back the 5,000. Screw you. Screw all of you. Screw all of you. Big time. Screw all of you with a big wiener. Screw all, each and every one of you.
The city was going to demand full repayment, and if Nayoung's family did not pay them back in full, they said that they would stop any and all government assistance payments to Nayoung's family. They said it is principle, if you have a balance of more than $2,300 in your bank account, you will be excluded from all support by the city. And the family just got paid $32,000 in insurance money.
You gotta be shitting me.
Angry netizens were the only reason Ansan withdrew their letter and continued all government assistance payments to the family again. And the whole
God bless the netizens. God bless you. You're doing the Lord's work, because some of these stupid institutions have to be checked. They have to be checked because they are pieces of rats, turd, that love perpetrators, that love being in bed with perpetrators and love to stomp on victims. Ansan people that went over to the family, screw you all with a PP as big as the Eiffel Tower. Screw you all, pieces of shit.
whole thing was ridiculous. The government seemed more than okay with paying so much in taxpayer money to protect Cho and watch over Cho as soon as he got his right to freedom. It's kind of wild. Netizens said it's like he's some sort of incredible person that we as a society need to protect. He's not even a criminal with a high hope of reforming. From a logical standpoint, this is the worst investment of taxpayer money.
That is so up because
yes.
What is the argument behind protecting him? It's prevention, right?
Prevention, yeah.
Okay, then why aren't we protecting the victims?
No, it's not prevention of Cho's crime. It's prevention of someone committing a crime against Cho.
That's what I'm saying. That's the fucked up part, right? Instead, the same amount of money could totally be spent to protect the people who needs to be protected.
Yes. Or just at that point, give $1 million to Nayoung and her family.
Yeah.
Let them move out of the country if they must.
Yes.
Like, what?
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, they are spending the money to prevent a crime happening against him. Mm-hmm. Why aren't we use that money to protect the people who has been hurt or could be hurt, like the kids
Yeah.
and the victims.
Yeah.
It's the same logic. It's the same reasoning. You're trying to prevent something from happening, right?
I don't even know how to wrap my head around
Yeah.
it. The fact that he is one of the most well-protected men in South Korea. And they're nickel and diming Nayoung's family for $5,000. It got so bad that in 2009, lawyers from the Korean Bar Association, the Human Rights Committee, filed a lawsuit on behalf of Nayoung's family against the state for the way that the prosecutors handled the case. I believe she did receive an undisclosed amount of compensation, but typically in South Korea, it's not a big amount. I mean, it's going to be nothing compared to what Nayoung had to go through because of them. To make the situation even more frustrating, Cho will be living on government assistance when he gets out. He will be receiving
Oh my
$1,000 a month
gosh.
from the government.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
A lot of people were angry for this for obvious reasons, but also because he didn't even pay taxes for the past 12 years. He was in jail for committing one of the most heinous crimes known to mankind. Why does he have the right to government assistance? A lot of netizens commented, I'm jealous. I don't have money either, but they're not giving me anything. This bastard Cho Do-sun gets to live and eat off of our tax money. I don't usually swear, but this is unfair. Someone else commented, I can't even receive tax benefits while Cho Do-sun can receive them and eat well. I can't help but laugh. The government did try to ease the public, and they said, well, Cho is not completely free, guys. We have limitations. He's going to wear a GPS-enabled anklet 24/7 for 7 years. His address and personal details will be disclosed on a government website for 5 years. But after that, it will be illegal for citizens to find him after 5 years and warn friends of his address. Yeah, you could be sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Literally, why? Like, why? Why does it matter 5 years later we need to hide where he lives? Like, why?
Yeah. Even now, you could be arrested. So, for example, if I was a Korean citizen and I told you where Cho lives, even through a private text message, like a KakaoTalk message, I could be arrested. All I can say right now, even though his address is on the government website as of right now, is, hey, go to the government website to find his address. What? But like, why can't we just all dox him after 5 years and then state that we were all drunk? We were in a state of temporary psychosis, of course. Cho was also assigned a one-on-one parole officer, and they stated it would be 24-hour surveillance once Cho gets out. Round-the-clock surveillance. And the probation officer is permitted to make random visits to Cho's home. But even the probation officer was interviewed, and he said, there is a real possibility Cho will harm other people and enact other extreme. It says I'm supposed to surveil him 24 hours a day, but in reality, when he goes to bed, we can't keep track of that. If he's in his house before bed and drinks, we can't really control that. We are trying to do our best within the frame of the law. And fine, he has to wear a GPS tracking anklet bracelet for 7 years, but so what? The other offenders that NBC interviewed, they had an ankle bracelet. They were at playgrounds. That doesn't alert anyone of anything, other than maybe where he is, but we don't know where he is, with who he is. He could easily kidnap a kid and bring them into his house. What would the ankle bracelet tell his probation officer? That he's safe at home? That's it. And it's only on for 7 years. Cho is prohibited from drinking more than a certain amount of alcohol. His blood alcohol concentration has to stay below 0.03%, which is 1 drink if you drink it very quickly. So he's not even forbidden to drink, which is wild, considering the whole reason he claims he committed this crime was because he was drunk. But they're like, fine, you can still drink a little bit. He also has a curfew. He cannot leave his house between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., which... Okay, and what? What is that going to do for anyone? The attack on Nayoung happened at 8:30 a.m.
I don't know who came up with these type of laws.
Yeah. Like, no kids are even outside typically at 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
This curfew is masquerading as some sort of big prevention tactic, and it's very odd. The whole half-mile radius around Cho's house has also been designated as, quote, I kid you not, a women's safety area.
Wait, what does that mean?
There's going to be heightened security presence there. Yeah.
So it's safe for women is what it says?
That's, I guess, the naming of it, but none of this makes sense. First of all, the name is ironic, and second of all, Nayoung was a child.
When I was a child, the naming is not is ridiculous, and also he doesn't commit stuff like that at home. He didn't do it at home. People with the stupid ankle bracelet went to children's parks and sat over there. They could do stuff over there. He could go out on the park, wherever it is, and do stuff over there. He doesn't have to do it at the women's safe. This is the most useless attempt to reform, useless attempt of safety I've ever seen in my life. I could pee in a bottle, close it, and set it on the table, and that will make sense than everything they're trying to put in place. It does not make sense at all. It is so stupid. You can drink alcohol, but to this level. You could um, go here, but up to this point. Oh, you're not safe. We'll also give you welfare, $1,000, but we're going to tell the victims that they should return the $5,000. Oh, you know what? You can have anything you want pertaining to your human rights, but up to this point. Oh, you can, bro. Screw all of you. This is freedom. This is just freedom. This is just to anger all the citizens. This is just to anger me.
Like, what? Clearly, women, full grown women, are not his target. And nothing is being done to stop his release. He has been released. I mean, nothing was done. I don't want to say nothing so definitively. I'm not an attorney, nor am I part of the government, nor do I know everything that happened behind the scenes. But the citizens, it seems like they're the only ones that tried to prevent Cho's release. They signed a petition. South Korea has a population of around 52 million people. Of that, like 8 million are children. 1.2 million people signed the petition to keep him in some sort of rehabilitation center after prison. Nothing was done. A professor of the Korean Institute of Criminology said, it's impossible to isolate these criminals from society forever. The criminal system must ensure that they reform when they return. Everybody hates offenders. We all know that. The whole world hates them. But their return is inevitable. They will be back. And Cho Do-sun was coming back to Ansan, of all places. It doesn't even appear that he has a strong network of friends and family. So why Ansan? Like, why come to the place where everyone hates you? I mean, everyone in Korea hates you, but why not just move somewhere quiet? You have no intention of getting a job. You're living on government assistance. Move somewhere quiet and live the rest of your life in solitude and try to find some remorse. Him
Or move to death row where you really, really actually belong. Death row. Because nobody's going to bother you. You're going to sit in your misery till it's time for you to get your lethal injection. You just live there. Just sit there and think about it. Because right now, I hope to God that you're unalived or something like that. Because like if I see you're still living, that would be another level of heartbreak for me. Yeah, you should have sent your ass to death row, really. You're living at a place where you committed the crime close to the victim's family, and the government does what? They feed you on top of that. They give you $1,000 spending cards every year. Yeah, you know what that message means? You know what? You can do it again. That is what that message means. Do it again.
moving back to Ansan feels to citizens and to Nayoung's family. Almost like him saying, yeah, and what? What are you going to do about it? Nayoung's dad was interviewed by 조선일보, and he said, how can Cho come back to Ansan where his victim lives? I feel like he's trying to retaliate by moving back here.
Yeah, totally.
To make matters worse, Cho allegedly wrote in multiple letters to the judge that his last request, his last wish, was to meet his victim again.
Please, God.
Oh my God.
Are you serious?
So sick and twisted.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, please no.
I feel like he knows that the victim would read that or find out about it, and it would re-traumatize her.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
please.
what intention for someone like him to have? Like he knows what this will do to the victim.
Yeah.
So
Oh
he's
my
obviously
gosh,
doesn't
no.
have the victim's interest in mind. So he has his
Oh,
own interest in
wow.
mind.
Which means he gets off
Yeah.
on the victim being in pain.
Exactly.
So, but he's free. It has been 12 years, But Nayoung has been on this very slow, painful journey of healing, and it's not just like a one-way road. It never is with trauma. You take 3 steps forward and 20 steps back. How can the government let this man out? Nayoung's dad said, "My daughter still has to wear a diaper at home. She has to carry the largest sanitary pads in her bag when we go out. People won't know how we feel as parents if they've never experienced this before. I feel like a sinner who can't even protect their own child, but Cho is coming back near our home. Does that make sense?" Nayoung only watches cartoons as an adult. She was 20 in 2020 when he was released. She can't watch the news. She can't watch crime thrillers. She will faint if there is any depiction of assault. But Cho, the monster who claims he's reformed and is remorseful, he wants to move to the town where the crime happened, the city where he knows his victim still lives. Nayoung has been here her whole life. Her friends are here. The ones that helped her through all of this, that pulled her up, they're all in Ansan. Why should she have to move? It might be the only place in the whole world that she was able to somewhat be comfortable in. The government offered Nayoung's family a smartwatch that will detect a signal if the perpetrator gets close. Her dad said that would just make them more anxious. That's not a way to ease the trauma. He said, if the watch sends an alert to my daughter, she will freak out. And it will make it easy for people to identify her as the victim of the attack and identify her as Nayoung.
Feels like these government officials are so out of touch. It's like
No, they are the dumbest people on earth. They are the dumbest people on the planet Earth. Yes, they are out of touch because they don't know what reality is. Their 8-year-old daughters were not subjected to that. Yeah. So what are they? Dumb. They are so dumb, incredibly dumb. I have never seen any group as dumb as government officials ever in my life. They are extremely dumb, and especially the ones in this case. So freaking dumb. Oh my goodness. So dumb. So dumb.
they try to do things to quote help because people demand it. But I feel like if that's their family member, they would not treat it this way at all.
I did see some netizens commenting some enlightening things of when government officials, such as the prosecutor, does such things where you cannot understand it and it almost feels like they're on the perpetrator's side. It makes you wonder, do they just relate to the perpetrator more for whatever reason? Yeah. Because I just can't. I mean, all the netizens are saying it doesn't matter what political party you're in. Nayoung's case, it's a united front as a nation. Yeah. Everyone wants Cho dead or at least in prison for the rest of his life. So it doesn't make sense in people's minds what these government officials are doing.
Yeah.
There is no logic. There's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
At first, when Cho was released, absolute hell broke loose. There was a squad probably of 20, 30 police officers surrounding the perimeter of his apartment building 24/7 for weeks, months. The crowd chasing after Cho in his government-issued vehicle when he was released from prison, like that's special treatment. Usually prisoners are required to find their own method of transportation back home. The crowd chased after the government vehicle, kicking it. YouTubers went and climbed on top of the government car, jumping on it. They were egging the car. The police had to barricade a whole road from the prison to Cho's house. The car was getting egged, floured. Protesters are ordering black bean noodles to the apartment, trying to pose as food delivery drivers to get into the building to kill Cho. When that failed, they just sat and ate black bean noodles in front of the cops, which honestly, the cops probably didn't want to be there in the first place either. Like, I don't think any single cop in their right mind wants to protect Cho. Citizens went around to the back of the building, turned off the gas line into the building. They said, you don't have hot water, you don't have gas to cook with. Some showed up with rocks to throw at his window. Others brought frying pans to bang on. It was a literal war zone. At least 4 people were arrested the first day. They're going to be facing criminal charges of obstruction of justice, destruction of property, and battery, which I hope they tell the judge that they were drunk.
They were drunk, yeah.
But after a few months, Ansan quieted down, and there were no more angry citizens with cartons of eggs. It was just quiet, Residents don't feel safe in their own city. One resident said, "What is the point of installing cameras?" Here's what they're saying when they install cameras. "If there's an incident, we will deal with it after it happens. Cameras are not about prevention. It's totally useless." The playgrounds in Ansan feel like a ghost town. It feels more like an abandoned city's playground. This is a town that has close to 716 residents. Sometimes you hear swings squeaking, but it's just the wind. None of the kids are on the playground. It feels like parents are anticipating a monster around every corner. But December 4th, 2023, just a month ago, 9 p.m., the streets of Ansan are quiet, very quiet. Not a single soul goes out at night without a care in the world. I mean, everyone, if they're going out at night, they've got a destination in mind. They're avoiding alleyways. Children have curfews. Everyone except Chodusun, because you don't have to be scared of the monsters when you are the monster. December 4th, 2023, 9 p.m., past Cho's curfew. He disappeared from surveillance for 40 minutes. Cho is not allowed to leave his house between the p.m. He was missing for 40 minutes between 9:05 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. 40 minutes. You can walk half a mile within 5-10 minutes, depending on your walking pace. So let's say a mile takes you 15 to 20 minutes to walk. That still leaves Cho with 20 minutes to do something. And remember, Nayoung's family home was half a mile away. In 2008, it only took Cho 30 minutes to almost kill Nayoung and then head back home to change and fall asleep. He was out for 40 minutes. At 9:05 p.m., Cho leaves his house. He walks out of the main gate of his apartment, and there's this little booth of police officers set up. They have to have stationed police officers outside 24/7. He walks up to them, and he starts talking to them. They immediately tell him, "Go back inside, you're breaking curfew, you're breaking the literal law." But he refuses. He says, "I had a fight with my wife, I just want to cool off." As he's whining, the ankle bracelet activates and an officer is dispatched to the scene. It takes a full 40 minutes to either persuade, coerce, and encourage Cho to get back into the house. I don't know why force wasn't an option here. Like, he's clearly breaking the law, so I don't know why they couldn't force him physically, but 40 minutes.
That they were talking?
Yeah, to finally convince him to go back in. This incident happened just over a month ago, and everyone is enraged. They asked, what if Cho didn't walk to the police officers out front? Did they even see him?
Yeah.
What if he just left somehow? Why is it that children and these parents have to live in fear every day of their lives while he gets to break laws and stroll out of his house whenever he wants?
That sounds like enough reason to throw him back in jail.
Yes, but they won't. It also feels like Cho is testing to see what he can get away with. This feels like him pushing the rules, which I wouldn't be surprised, and it works because Cho is an expert at getting what he wants out of the Korean justice system. Netizens are not happy with the incident or the fact that Cho is free. One commented, "Stop giving everyone trouble. Just someone go over there and cut his Achilles heel." He approached the police first. I feel like he's just testing to see if he could get away with it next time. We should not underestimate Cho. If the police had not been there at the post, or if they didn't see him, he could have done something. Another netizen wrote.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, most of the time you hear a lot of these police things. It's like, oh, wow, they're just manhandling you. But over here, they're having a peaceful conversation. Like,
Yeah.
please go back home, please.
The prosecutors were yelling at Nayoungi to sit up straight.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Please, Cho, do us a favor. Do us a solid." I swear, sometimes when I research these cases, I feel like evil is rewarded. I don't understand. Other people wrote, "I can't believe our tax money goes to this guy for this one devilish criminal." Thankfully, Nayoung was safe in those 40 minutes because she no longer lives in Ansan. The family had to move. The family didn't have money. The local community raised $100,000 to give them for all moving costs and just life. Nayoung is in college now, so to her college fund as well. It was just incredibly kind, and Nayoung and her family were forever grateful. They did not have the resources prior to this, but they're still upset. Nayoung's dad said, "We didn't want to run. We had no choice. I also wanted to deliver a message that the government did nothing but force the victim to go into hiding. It was our only option to move away. Many years have passed and still nothing has changed. The burden still falls entirely on the victim." He said that there needs to be much more support for victims. He's scared that there's going to be all this buzz and attention after Cho's release and it's going to disappear. He said it'll be more helpful if there's an appointed public official or social worker who can keep in touch with victims. Just once a month, give us a call. We'll feel more secure. All we want is to know that just to say to victims, you are not alone and we support you. That's what victims' families really want to hear. How do you think this makes us as parents feel? When your child tells you they're scared and we have to move away. Nayoung wanted Cho to be in prison for 50 years. Instead, he gets 12 and now he's free and she's on the run. Parents in Korea say, they used to have a saying that you got to enjoy your time with your daughter as a little kid because once they become a teenager, they don't want to hang out with you anymore. But now knowing that there are more Cho Do-suns out there in the world and the justice system is protecting them, a lot of parents say, we want our girls to grow up as quickly as possible. Yeah. There have been some changes made. A bill called the Cho Do-sun Law was passed. It bans essay offenders of minors from going near schools and leaving their homes at night and during hours when students commute to and from school. But that doesn't include hagwons, tutoring centers, parks, the mall, like other places where students gather. The law has also been amended to make it more difficult for defendants to use alcohol intoxication as a defense, but it's still kind of left up to the discretion of the judges. Even in 2019, just a few years ago, a 26-year-old male essayed a college student. He claimed he was drunk at the time. He received 3 years in prison, but even that was reduced to 4 years of probation. Outside, free. And even with Cho Do-sun being a, quote, free man, the government keeps making reassurances to the public that he will be closely watched. But now netizens want to know, and then what? We're going to spend all our taxpayer money on trying to prevent Cho Do-sun from reoffending, but what about all the other Cho Do-suns? What about all the other children being hurt? How do we prevent all the other offenders from offending and reoffending? Data from the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family revealed that only about half of recorded crimes against children 13 or younger resulted in a jail sentence at all.
What?
With the other remainder receiving a probation or a fine. This is between 2010 and 2015. About 61% of jail sentences were around 1 to 5 years, and less than 10% of jail sentences were more than 10 years.
Less
So
than
crazy.
10%.
And
Less than 10% were over 10 years. Less than 10%. Getting away with essay is so easy in these places. So easy. Because aside the law being very lenient, they will protect you and they will give you welfare and they will give you more kids to pick your choice from playgrounds. Yeah, just go live there. Yeah, and that is what it is. And give a big middle finger to everybody else, especially the victims. Yeah. So I'm not surprised. What a useless law.
knowing that Korea has such a crazy law against drugs,
Yeah.
like you are literally dead if you do any type of drugs. And here you are,
Yeah.
some of the most vile crimes, and you get like a couple years.
So recently with the actor who passed
Right.
and this Cho Do-sun breaking his curfew, a lot of netizens have been saying, essay, murder, it's okay, we forgive you. Drugs, you're a dead man walking. That is South Korea. Even the accusation of drugs. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. A lot of netizens said, and the government wonders why South Korea's birth rate is declining. I mean, there's a huge host of reasons, economic, financial, socioeconomic, but the sentiment applies that, I mean, this is not just South Korea, by the way. This is clearly in the US as well. Why would we want to raise our children in a world that does not protect our children? One netizen commented, I think it's extremely important to note that Ansan city funds are literally being thrown away trying to stop a criminal from being a criminal, when it could be used to help a victim and a family have a better chance at life. Another commenter just reads, I hope he dies of COVID-19. Heart emoji. When Cho was attacked with a hammer, one comment read, to the doctors of Cho Do-sun, this is exactly the time to make medical errors. If by mistake you drop the scalpel and cut him in half, this is just a medical error and all the citizens will understand and support you. Another comment reads, "There's no way to control someone like him. He's like a fire that needs constant suppression or he will be out of control. And it feels like nothing has changed with him and nothing has changed with the justice system for the past 12 years." And that is where we are with this case. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just feel like this is not the end of it.
No,
Right?
yeah, there's no way this is the end of it.
Yeah, like he's only been out for how long? And
Yeah.
wow.
Please leave your thoughts in the comments and please be safe. And I will see you guys on Sunday for another episode. Bye.
Cho being my shit. That idiot. Oh my goodness, man. I don't even know where to start. But seriously, that stupid law has to be reformed. That alcohol excuse has to be taken out of the law. People have to face the full rigors. Imagine if somebody does something like that to a kid and then gets maybe the death penalty or life in prison. Of course, they're going to be offenders, but a lot of people will deter. They'll go back. He immediately used the alcohol excuse because he knew he was going to get a lighter sentence. And guess what? It worked. Him and a stupid lawyer, because there was a stupid judge. There was an idiot of a judge. There was a judge whose head is screwed backwards, who allowed it to happen. Man, this probably my most angry reaction, and rightfully so, because an 8-year-old was treated as a perpetrator, and an old hag of an old shell, an old shit stain, an old piece of rat's turd was treated as the victim in this story. The most hated man in Korea? No. I think he's the most hated man, period. He's the most hated man, period. He's an idiot. And the fact that the police are, man, I don't, but look, it's over. Bye. I'll see y'all in the next one.